I invite you to walk into your story and own it. We have an invitation today. You have walked in to a divine appointment. In Unity, we have a few services that are ritual, experiential services. They don't have to be done in Unity centers, but they have become part of what most Unity centers experience in the new year and the close of the year before. So you have walked into this divine appointment for a burning bowl, a letter writing to your future self, a letter writing of intention to source, to spirit, and a white stone ceremony where you will receive a word or a name on the stone. When you walked in this morning, you hopefully got a little packet that says Divine Letter. And then in that little packet, there's a piece of paper that you may have missed, but it's just a small piece of paper. That is flash paper for the release in the burning bowl. If you have children with you today, please do that with them, for them, and discernment on if they're holding that paper, because it does burn. It kind of explodes. And then you got a stone, a white stone, and a description of that stone. Reverend Robin Ferguson and I will be leading you through this ritual, this ceremony today. And you may hear what seem like contradictions today. Let go of your old story. That's your old story. Walk into your story and own it. A mature spiritual mind and a mature spiritual practice can be in the presence of contradictions and know that sometimes contradictions are present enough to allow the mind to release, to allow the mind to become less analytical so that it can open into the portal of being more experiential. If you haven't noticed, in sacred scripture, the Bible has 4 gospels. Each tell a notedly different story. If you look at it with an analytical mind, you say it is missing facts. You say it is not lining up. You say, how could writers, how could authors, how could any divine essence put these books together and not recognize that there's a problem, that they contradict each other? Again, a practice so that we don't become so ingrained in the facts and we begin to experience the presence and open up to the practice. That too is our work with our story. Because there are times in life where our story no longer serves us the way we're telling it. And we can't necessarily release that story while we're a victim of it. We can't release it while we're still believing in the illusory idea that someone else is writing it and applying it to us. We can only enter into transformation when we begin to realize that we have to get into the driver's seat and recognize we are co-creating our own lives, recognize that we actually have the pen in our hand, that in fact we are the author of the story. And until we own that story, right, until we own it and we walk into it, and to some degree, no matter how messy it is, no matter how much we like it or we don't like it, if we have attachment, if we have craving or aversion around that story, we recognize that there is this element of falling in love with it. Not like with it in the human way, but falling in love with the essence of living a story and being able to witness a story and recognize that we're co-creating a story in every moment, that we begin to fall in love and we begin to own our stories. And only then can we begin to experience a release. Not a heavy-handed release like, I've got to let go of this. I've got to let go of this limited thinking. I've got to let go of this awful experience. I've got to let go that relationship happened 30 years ago and I am still raging about it. I've got to let go of it. That will just create more suffering, right? Because that is just pulling the heartstrings. That is just attaching more hooks. It's like fishing and having a fish pull you. Just imagine a huge fish that's growing and growing and growing, and you just keep trying to fish it out, putting more hooks. This is a disgusting analogy. And you're being pulled by that story. Not until you start cutting those cords and going, guess what? There may be life happening around me. With relationships in the world, there may even be things that happen to me. But my domain is what happens within me. And there is no one else in charge of that domain but me and the source of my being. There is no one else that gets to write or rewrite my story than the fullest aspect of my consciousness. And that is why the burning bowl and the white stone service in unity has become so prevalent. Because we can become busy in our lives, we can become unconscious, we can sleepwalk through life and not give ourselves the time to presence a rebirthing, the time to presence a moment where we step into our story and we allow ourselves the space that we deserve, the space that is given to us and available to us to interact with our own experience of creation on a spiritual level. Brené Brown says that imperfections are not inadequacies, they are reminders that we are all in this together. As we presence what has brought us to this moment, can we begin to see in a non-dual way? Not black and white thinking, not that things are good or bad. Let the contradictions be there and begin to enter into the essence of the experience of our own stories. She says, either you walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside your story and hustle for your worthiness. If we own the story, then we can write the ending. One of my favorite new authors is a man named Jeff Foster. He is a mindfulness meditation teacher. And he talks about nonviolence against self. He says the present moment is sometimes unacceptable, unpleasant, or awful. By watching the mechanics of the mind, you step out of its resistance patterns, and you can allow the present moment to be. He goes on to say that whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. There's an invitation there. It might be too much, that's fine. But what would it be like if we accepted the present story that we have around our lives, the story of life up to now, as if we had chosen it, as if we had written it, and as if we had chosen it? And if we did, what would we be standing on in this moment to create for the rest of our lives? What would be the power in that story? Ernest Holmes, New Thought teacher, said, "We do not change all of the patterns of our thoughts in a moment. Rather, it takes place little by little until gradually the old thought patterns become transformed into new ones by some inner alchemy of the mind, the operation of which we do not see, but the manifestation of which we do experience." We have an opportunity today to let go of pain we've carried around, or any heaviness, any lack of forgiveness against other or self, any story that no longer serves us, Not because we're inflicting violence against self. When Jeff Foster teaches about violence against self, he teaches that if we hate our story, if we hate our story, if we hate our current experience, if there is anything that we are in that space about, it can be experienced as violence against self, violence against what is. So how can we instead go in with loving kindness? How can we instead go in with compassion and with a sense of our wholeness? And from that space, just allow whatever is to happen, almost to some degree. Allow something to release you today, because it's no longer serving. So if you would take your piece of flash paper in your hand, it's the little one, and let's all be mindful, it's not the divine letter. If you try to burn this one up, this one's about intention. If you try to burn this one up in the lights, well, we'll all be smoked out of here. But you have this piece of paper in your hand. I invite you to just hold it in your hand as we enter a time of meditation. And I'm going to share words from another mindfulness teacher that I appreciate deeply, Matt Licata. I'm going to share his words and just allow them to sink in, and just allow anything that comes up that you would like to press into the fires of love to come up for you. You can either do that just energetically by placing your hands on this paper and knowing whatever pain, whatever suffering, whatever heaviness, whatever story, even whatever good that's just attachment, it's just craving, whatever it is. Or you can take out a pencil that's on the seat in front of you, or a pen, and you can write as many things as you can get on this little piece of paper. And then I'll invite you to come up and put the paper in the flame. And so, Marianne, would you demonstrate that for us, Reverend Marianne? So the thing about it is, like with flame, it's really about release. So you don't touch it and then hold on to it. When you're ready to let it go, you give it the light, and then the light touch, and you let it go. So you're going to have an opportunity to do that. We'll invite you up. And as you come up, just take the moment that you need to release that. And as you head back to your seat, then you grab your letter writing paper. It says Divine Letter. You're going to, if you choose to write your address, your mailing address on here, and leave this with the ushers, we'll mail this back to you at the end of 2017. So you could think of this letter as a letter to your future self, a letter to God, a letter to the highest self, a letter to the universe, a letter of intention, a letter of commitment, a letter of vision. But you write your letter for 2017 in the sacred silence, in the music, in the space provided. And then after that ceremony, we'll have an opportunity to work with our white stones. So I invite you to just become comfortable where you are and gently close your eyes. And as you close your eyes and you breathe into this space, just take a few deep breaths. And just let go into this moment, knowing that you don't have to create anything or think of anything. You don't have to do it right. There are no rules. But you've walked into a divine appointment on this Sunday. And you're holding a little piece of paper in your hand. And we're here to allow the cleansing of our perception with this little piece of paper. That we can put onto this paper or press into this paper anything that needs attunement or reorganization. Any old story that we're ready to rewrite. Not that we're having resistance against it or can't honor it and see the fullness of how it led us to this moment. But we're ready for a reorganization of this story. A more empowering story, a more awakened story, a more mindful story, a more co-creative story. In the words of Matt Licata, it can be so heartbreaking to continue to infuse our limiting beliefs with reality, to continue to feed the narrative of unworthiness, the trance that there is something wrong with us, and the dream that we are not enough. There is such a natural longing to once and for all let go of all of the storylines of shame and worthlessness. It is a great act of kindness to call off the war with these stories and discover that you can let them be as they are. So we breathe into that and we ask ourselves, am I willing, wanting, and ready to call off the war with these stories and let them be as they are? It's okay if with some of the stories the answer is no, but with the ones that you get a yes, breathe into that. I am ready to call off the war with these stories and let them be as they are. He says you do not need to shift, change, transform, or heal them. You do not need to let go of them, for they will let go of you when they are no longer needed. Perhaps they are not in need of transformation, but space. Infuse them with space, and they will liberate on their own. They continue to arise to protect you and keep you safe from the underlying raw, naked aliveness of the world of the heart. While it is painful to hold on to these organizing strategies, they are serving to keep you out of an eruption of tender vulnerability. You must ask if you truly want or need to be protected from the fires of love any longer. Slowly, with a wild sort of compassion as your guide, you can discover whether they are ready to re-embody that which you have lost contact with at an earlier time. Prepare to turn all the way back into what you are, a raging, majestic field of intimacy, aliveness, and connection. When these beliefs surge in a moment of activation, slow way down, way down. An invitation into wholeness has made its way through. Even though you sense an unknown world of aliveness around you, it is not possible to access it until the spell that you are undeserving is broken. This trance is subtle and is deeply embedded, the result of both personal and collective misperception. The cleansing of perception requires full spectrum attunement and reorganization at psychic, emotional, somatic, and transpersonal levels. But the guidance is already here. It is not something which needs to be produced, for it is not caused. You are not broken or in need of fixing. nor is something cosmically wrong with you that you must be repaired by way of the spiritual process. You are not a project to be solved, but something majestic has been forgotten and displaced. This vision cannot be released into a field of self-abandonment and turning from the fire, but only into an environment of kindness and presence where the circuitry can be re-encoded with empathy, attunement, and new levels of creativity. So we take a few deep breaths with this paper in our hand, knowing that it represents the journey to this now moment, and knowing that as we are immersed in loving kindness, in a sanctuary of kindness and love, we are ready to cleanse our perception of all that no longer serves. So as you're ready, you can make your way to the front of the sanctuary. And as you return to your seats, take your letter in your hand and begin your creation.
And if you still need time to complete your letter, you can do so during the offering. If you choose not to have it mailed to you, you can take it home with you. You can tuck it on your altar, and you can open it up at the end of the year. But just know that that process of release, of intentionally letting go, allows you to breathe a little easier, for you have set down that which no longer serves you. And 2016 was a time of overcoming. 2017 is a time of fulfillment. 2016 was a time of overcoming. Overcoming challenges, overcoming limitation. And in our overcoming, we gain strength. We gain resilience. We gain wisdom that becomes the foundation for our fulfillment. That is what we take forward with us. We let go of what no longer serves us, but we take with us the wisdom, the beauty, the joy, the strength, the gifts that we gained along the way, and those become a foundation for our fulfillment. 2017 is a new beginning. And so our white stone ceremony comes from a passage in Revelations. In the second book, chapter 17, it says, "He who has an ear, let him hear what Spirit says. To the one who overcomes, I will give the hidden manna, the spiritual wisdom, and I will give him a white stone with a new name written on the stone that no one knows except the one who receives it." In our overcoming, we are given the spiritual wisdom to move forward. In the ancient times, when you were released from prison, or when there was a trial and you were proved to be innocent, you were given a white stone that represented that. So as you hold that white stone in your hand, think about that this is a symbol of your freedom. This is a symbol of reclaiming your innocence. As you look with new eyes and new wonder. And if you're watching from home, you can take a piece of paper, you can take a river rock, whatever feels right to you as we move through this time of claiming. Also in the Roman Empire, when someone won, when they were the victor of a game, they were also given a white stone. history tells us. So this stone also represents your victory, the victory of your overcoming. 2017 is a time of fulfillment where we take all that we have learned, the wisdom we have gained, the strength we have gained. So as we move into a time of meditation, know that you will be receiving a word or a phrase that symbolizes what this year has in potential for you. And you may receive it today, you may receive it tomorrow, you may receive it months from now. One year, I didn't receive my white stone word till June. And when I wrote it on that stone, I realized that I'd been living from that intention the 6 months prior to that. But I wasn't yet ready to discern or understand what that was about. If at the end of the year your stone is still blank, then it means that you've been a clean slate upon which is written all possibility for what is to come. So trust that whatever it is you receive, it is right and perfect for you. And that intuitive guidance comes from Holy Spirit, the Spirit of wholeness within us. It is the Spirit of wholeness within us that is calling us forward into this new year, into this new manifestation. We have been through a birth, and birth is messy, isn't it? And so as we look around and we may see chaos in our own life or in the world, we can see that as a bad thing, or we can see that as a birthing, as a time for a new world order to come into being. We are breaking up an old consciousness so that we can release what no longer serves us, and we can come together in a new way of being, both on a personal level and as a human body. So let this be a time for you to connect to that Spirit of wholeness within you, and let it reveal to you what potential lies ahead for you in the new year. So, as we turn within, let us take a deep breath. And let us know that in this time we will be guided today, tomorrow, the coming months, that whatever it is that is the potential that lies before us is being revealed to us in every moment. And in this now moment, we open and are receptive to a word or a phrase or a symbol, a possibility, an impression that Spirit is calling us to. For we are each being called higher. We are each being called to take the guidance and the wisdom and the love that we have gained in our overcoming, and to let that serve as a foundation for what is possible. Possibility is calling you now, and you are an amazing spirit of potential waiting to be birthed, waiting to be welcomed and celebrated into this new way of being. We are waiting for you. You are the one. And so just allow yourself to be and to receive and to be open. And know that Spirit goes before you, making the way clear for whatever is revealed to you on this day and in the days to come. And so it is.
Stones in our hands. And I invite you to just bring your hand up to your heart. And inhaling and exhaling through the heart itself, imagining that breath going through and moving through your hands.